Hello to everyone, welcome. Nice to have you with us, all our Bogrot and our visitors and our friends. My name is Berg, and we're learning Parshat Shavua. And this week we're learning Parshat Korach. Am Yisrael is walking from Egypt to Eretz Israel, and on the road the problems. And one of the big problems is Korach. We learn Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kahat ben Levi ותדן ואבירם בני אליאב ועוד בן פלט בני ראובן ויקומו לפני משה. ויקומו לפני Moshe. They got up against Moshe. We learn about this very great Torah scholar, this rich man, this wise man called Korach, who gets up and challenges Moshe Rabbeinu. As you remember briefly, Moshe Rabbeinu is devastated by this whole thing. He tells him to stand on the side with their machtot, and he says, whoever chooses the Torah from you, if he chooses from you, you'll be the one that Hashem has chosen. And then, as you remember, Hashem tells them, Moshe, to stay away from these people, to move away, and the ground opens up and swallows them. And then comes out fire from the heavens and burns up the 250 people from Bnei Reuven who were part of this whole thing. So our question is, what happened over here? What was Korach's chet? What was his sin? What was his problem? Why does he rebel against Moshe? What's it all about? And this we can learn on different realms, different frames, and see this whole thing from different perspectives. So what does he say to Moshe? Rav lachem, ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim. Why are you so great? Everyone is holy. U'betocham Hashem, madua titnasu al ka'al Hashem. Why should you be greater and be in charge of the community of Hashem? What's his challenge? So we have a look at Rashi, and Rashi comes along and speaks about Kinah Jealousy and the sin of Makhaloki. Korach had this great jealousy, and he was part of the tribe of Levi, and his family should have been chosen to be the leaders. And not only that, that brings him to the sin of Makhaloki. What is Makhaloki? To argue, to fight, to disagree with people. And we learn later that we shouldn't be Korach v'adato. And here we learn about the terrible sin, the terrible thing that a person can do, which is called Makhaloki, to argue, as opposed to Shalom. And here, if we look in Pirkei Avot, Perikei, we'll see a very interesting Mishnah. Kol machloket shehi l'shem shamayim. There's a machloket that is for the sake of heaven. Then machloket, says the Mishnah, sofa litkadeh, will continue to exist, and it's valid. And if there's a machloket she'eina l'shem shamayim, ein sofa litkayem, that will not exist forever. So the Mishnah tells us there are two types of arguments. There's the argument l'shem shamayim, and an argument shelo l'shem shamayim. So what's the argument that is l'shem shamayim? So Mishnah straight away says, zo machloket shel Hillel v'Shammai. You have Hillel v'Shammai. Throughout the Mishnah, they're arguing about all different issues. And they have very different views on different things. Hillel and Shammai's children married each other. And we learn Hillel and Shammai. We have the two names. And we told you Hillel and Shammai. And Hillel listens to what Shammai has to say. And Shammai listens to what Hillel has to say, and they talk together, they discuss, and they agree. And they sometimes disagree to disagree. What's wrong with that? It's fine to disagree and not to agree on different things. That's fine. But in the argument, there's always a respect between the two of them, and there's always love between the two of them. There's no animosity. That is the Hillel, the Makhaloki l'shem shamayim. And then the Mishnah says, Zo machloket Korach v'kol adato. We're told this is the one that is not good, is the one that is of Korach and his whole community. Now, we aren't told about two sides of the argument. We're told about Korach and his community, but it doesn't say Korach and Moshe, because here lies the big difference between the different Makhaloki. Korach did not want to hear. He had jealousy. He was filled with the desire to fight and to argue, and he did not want to hear the other point of view. He did not respect the other point of view. He did not want to agree to disagree. I'm right, and whatever I think is right. And we meet many people like this. You can talk to them, and they're just saying their opinion. They're not listening to your opinion at all. They don't want to listen. That is the big difference between the Makhaloki l'shem shamayim and the Makhaloki shelo l'shem shamayim. Those are the words of Rabbi Yonatan Leibowitz, the famous posek from 200 years ago, where he tells us that one has to learn to respect each other. And through respecting each other, we can argue and disagree. There's nothing wrong with disagree. Husband and wife can disagree. Children and parents can disagree. Friends can disagree. And we get along fine. But if we don't listen to each other and we don't respect each other, then it's a Makhaloki shelo l'shem shamayim. It's a one-sided argument. And that's the first lesson that we learn about Korach. We should not be Korach at all. And the tragedy is that it swallows you up. The ground swallows you up if one is involved in such a Makhaloki. We have a deeper idea that is brought by the Vilna Gaon, and Rav Kook wrote it in his writings. And this is a much deeper way of looking at the whole story of Korach. We'll start off by saying that really Korach rebelled against Hashem, because Hashem made an order in the world. And in Am Yisrael, we have Kohanim, we have Leviim, and we have Israel. My little boy used to say, Abba, I want to be a Kohen. I said, you can't be a Kohen. We're not Kohanim. You'll never be a Kohen. And so Hashem made an order to the world and came along Korach and rebelled against that. Comes along Rav Kook based on the Gra, and he said, this is not new. The first rebellion we had was Cain and Hevel. Cain and Hevel. Hevel came along, brought a sacrifice. Hashem chose Hevel. Cain rebelled against it, and he got up and he killed Hevel. He wanted to be the chosen one, and in that he was rebelling against Hashem. The next one in history who rebelled against Hashem was Korach. Within Am Yisrael, we have levels of holiness, and each one has his role. And the Kohanim and the Kohen Gadol has his role, and Hashem chose a person to be a Kohen. And he rebelled against that. He rebels against Hashem's order. And the third group of people who came along and rebelled against Hashem and rebelled against Hashem's order were the Christians, the Christianity. The Christianity, says the Gra and Rav Kook, Christianity came along and said, hey, there's a nation called the Jewish people. They are no longer the chosen people. They now didn't accept that man as their Messiah, and therefore they're no longer the chosen people. And we, the Kulam Kedoshim, we're all equal. Everyone's equal. There's no chosen people anymore. And that is what Christianity has been doing and saying to the world and to Am Yisrael for so long. But now, many years ago, suddenly Am Yisrael started arising. And then we got a state. And then 54 years ago, we conquered Yerushalayim in the place of the temple. And in that we were saying, hey, we are the chosen people. And that is one of the biggest challenges to the Christian religion, who finally learned that Am Yisrael is the chosen people. We arose again, and we are not like Korach, and you cannot be like Korach. You have to accept Hashem's order to the world, and maybe all learn not to be argumentative, not to argue, and realize the role of Am Yisrael within the world. I wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom.